They're the other podcast. I'm the real podcast. Lescast is the real podcast. Welcome to Lescast. This is a breakdown of season 2 of Gentleman Jack. I am your host, Amanda Costner. Of course, I can only do this with the help of a co-host, and my co-host today is someone I met around the Twin Cities stand-up comedy scene. She is a trivia mafia host, a volunteer at the St. Croix County Historical Society, and in September, she will be marrying her own Ann Walker. Please welcome to the pod, Ida Ellen Sansom.
Hello. So happy to be here. This is so much fun.
Ida, if you could you give us just like the quick version of your the background on your fanship with the show?
I would be happy to. So, exploring all of the period lesbian films and television series, which it's kind of a desert for many decades. Last couple of decades has shown us some really good ones. I'm a really big fan of Gentleman Jack because it is based on a true story, so that's the big part. And I also am currently reading the Diaries. I enjoy like all of the drama. It's the drama for me. The historical relevance takes unfortunately second fiddle, but honestly, it's the drama for me. Such drama.
Me too. Me too. We're here to discuss season 2. I am going to take this off, actually. By the way, if you're interested in this,
so great. It's so great.
I'm going to have a link to it in the description. But back to my norm. Back to the ball cap for me.
Nice.
So we're here to discuss season 2. The, I guess, final season of the show. Although creator Sally Wainwright is definitely out here giving us fans hope. It might not be the end. But at this point, until I hear different, I sort of have transitioned into viewing season 2 as the final version of this version of the show. And frankly, when I watched the finale the first time even, I was like, ooh, this seems perfectly set up to end the show. So it didn't surprise me when it was canceled.
Right. Yeah, and for me, it's kind of like ending Titanic before you move to the second VHS, because the later part of annelister's life is kind of tragic. Not like it wasn't tragic already, but it's kind of like a fairy tale ending, how they tie it up.
Wait, so you... When does the Titanic end? So there's 2 VHS cassette tapes.
Was that way too vague of a reference? I don't watch the second VHS because the second one and the first one ends right as they start to figure out the boat is the ship is sinking. Okay. And then the second VHS is literally just mayhem and people dying and jumping off the ship. So
Ida, this is an amazing reference.
Vague. That was vague.
My first reaction was like, how? Like, I'm older than Ida, I think, but you have the VHS.
Oh, the box set, the two VHS box set. Yes, I did. Sorry about the vague reference. My point is, it tied it up.
You meant it when you said you were here for the drama.
But it tied it up in a place, even though and we'll get to that. I'm assuming we're going to start from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Episode 1. But the way it ties up at the end obviously is alluding to some like, maybe this isn't a happy ending, but it allows me to fantasize that they lived happily ever after, lived into their old age. But if you read into it, that's not true. But spoilers on annelister's life.
They didn't.
No. No, they didn't.
So what was your reaction to learning that the show was canceled?
So that part of it, and this is maybe where we'll disagree, because we were wondering if we were going to find a place we're going to disagree. My reaction was relief, because I know we're disagreeing. Because I know what happens to her. And I was relieved that I didn't have to, because I am all about, like, I get sucked into shows and movies. Like, I feel everything that they're feeling. I'm a major empath for fictional characters, unfortunately. And I was happy that I didn't have to live even more agony, mainly for Ann Walker, honestly. Because Annelister lives her adventure until the very end. And then Ann Walker Do you know what happens afterwards, or I don't know?
Her family. Spoiler alert! For anybody
Spoiler alert.
who doesn't want to be spoiled on the Diaries, the ending for Anne Walker in real life was not too good. She was ended up put into a, I don't know, for lack of better words, like it's insane institution.
Sanitarium, maybe?
Yeah, some sort of institution. And uh, I've heard this like battled, but like to me, it looks like Captain Sutherland moves into Shipton Hall and sort of her family gets their way. But I know
Mhm.
some people that I'm friends with who are part of who like have done some research on Ann Walker. They don't like look at Captain Sutherland as like that much of a bad guy. So I don't know. It's a little
Hmm.
clouded in real life. But yeah, not
Interesting.
a great ending for Ann Walker.
No, no, but they do a great job, and that's why I'm like wondering, would they do a season 3? Because they do such a great job at setting up that
From
potential
what I've been
situation.
told, yeah, they were going to show the death and everything. So
Yeah,
you are right. You would have hated it.
I was relieved. I'm like, I don't want to see. But at the end, they're like, "Would you like to go into York to get our wills changed?" It's like, yes, and I'm like, that's where we end. That's great. Change your wills, live in this lesbian utopia. Oh,
Okay, well, let's just jump into breaking down this second final HBO season.
let's do it.
I do feel like this season is a little misunderstood almost.
Yeah, how so?
Like some fans seem to see it as like an homage to the real Ann Lister and, if not the real Ann Lister's eyebrows. um,
What to say? I'm sorry. Oh,
they
do you mean her eyebrows?
they stepped it up in season 2 eyebrow wise. Um,
Honestly, best supporting character. Ann Lister's eyebrows.
if somebody doesn't nominate those brows,
Seriously. It's a shame.
something's
A
wrong with the world.
travesty. Oh, okay. I'm so glad you said
But
something about the eyebrows.
of course, how could we not?
How could you
But
not?
some people like the business stuff, the political stuff, the detailed stuff. They're really into it. And then other fans are kind of like, gee, I wonder why it was canceled. We went from, lesbian passion to here's what it's like to be an 1800s landowner,
Yeah,
Um, those are two wildly different forms of content.
totally. Yeah. Weirdly, I'm here for both. I don't
And then there's
represent,
the
I guess.
yous.
Yeah, and
Then
there's
there's the
me.
people like you who are like, I'm
I'm
here
like,
for both.
let's sink a coal pit. I guess maybe that doesn't turn most people on, but I don't know. There's me. But yeah, but it does represent her life though, because in the diaries, she actually was pretty sexually frustrated later on. So why
Yeah.
would we why would we include more sex if there was less sex? There just was. But
I mean, that's a discussion in it of itself.
yeah,
The question
no kiss.
is, uh, another diary entry that starts with no kiss. Oh, there's so many. So many. I think that's one of the things that happened throughout season 2 is like they're so accurate to the diaries. And the diaries get a little bit depressing towards the end, especially if you know like what's gonna happen, like how she's gonna die,
Yeah.
Ann Lister. And I think the season like almost echoes it, and I don't know if that's like, is that the right decision if you're trying to get a season 3?
Right. Yeah.
Or do you depart a little and do you say, let's take a little liberty? I know everybody loves how accurate we are to the diaries, but we did all that Thomas the pig murderer stuff. Like, why not take some liberty in some other areas?
Well, yeah, the Thomas the pig murderer stuff. Wow. I got I was overwhelmed with that storyline in a good way. Like,
Oh,
wow. What
some
how like
people
this
didn't like it, but I liked it.
what?
It brought a lot of excitement.
Yeah,
And I
I
thought it
loved
hurt
it.
the season that it was a dropped plot line.
It was because that's what I was waiting for. I was like, okay, the creepy brother who is coming over literally just to have sex with this old lady all the time, and not any not any shame on her, get it while you can,
Mhm.
lady. But um then like what happened to him? Like it was a dropped plot line. So
Um,
But was
I
that
think what happened is that the family got really mad and the real Sodans, and they were like, how dare you portray our ancestors this way? And
Oh
so the
my
show went, oh,
gosh.
let's take that out of the script. Oh, let's take that out of the edit. I don't know if they had shot it or what, but that's like my best guess of why it was
Oh,
not
that would
finished.
make sense. Personally, if it were me, let's put myself into that position, finding out
Mhm.
that an ancestor of mine was in a show and it turned out I'd be like,
Are you
yeah.
like typing up emails? Oh my God. Sally Wainwright. Oh my God.
No,
Is
I'd
that
be
you?
like, make my character more devious, but also more
I would be like,
sexy.
make my checkout to Amanda Cost. Like, I would be like, where's my money?
Right.
Do
Like you
whatever
can do
you
whatever
want.
you
Just
want,
pay me.
but yeah, just pay me for it. No, so going back to what you were saying, yeah, the sexy stuff, but is that really what brought fans to the stands? Because it is a lesbian plot line. So you've got the percentage of people who maybe are like, okay, maybe this only appealed to me because it was a novelty, versus me, who it's like, ooh, like I live and die for this shit. I really do. Like Ammonite, give me Ammonite 2 and 3 and 4, and hated that ending,
Oh,
but we don't need to talk about
okay.
Ammonite.
Well, I was actually laughing because when you said, oh, some fans came for the lesbian stuff and we're getting this murder stuff, it made me think of Gen Q, the L Word, how they kept trying to make like Danny and her dad a thing. And I feel like the fan base is like, no, we don't care about this dad.
Yeah.
This guy who's like a drug corporation CEO. I don't know.
Right, right, and I think it does work for a percentage of the viewers. And again, you and I are the viewer, or I'm assuming you, but like I do have historical interest. I do like that side of it, and I also like the lesbian stuff, but I also like the murder stuff, and I like the political stuff, and I like all of that. But how many people does that really make up? So,
Mm.
um,
Hmm.
yeah.
Well, listeners, the way we're going to do this, we're going to highlight as many as we can of the big moments from season 2. Also, listeners, make sure you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Very soon, we will be getting these discussions going live on YouTube, and that way you'll be able to get in on the discussion yourself. But for now, give us a little bit of grace. We're going to try our best to discuss this with fun and integrity, and we're going to get to as much stuff as we can. But obviously, it's hour-long episodes. It's a lot. So we left off from season 1 with Anne and Anne reuniting on the hill. Anne Walker had said, "If you ask me to marry you again, I wouldn't say no." And we head into episode 1 with Anne Walker in York with Dr. Belcombe, of course, famously Mariana's brother,
Mhm.
and Ann Lister is running the estate. I thought after reading the diaries I'd be able to follow the Cole stuff better, but I kind of feel like a huge idiot because I didn't follow it any better at all on my rewatch.
Yeah, no, I don't think I don't think I was worried about understanding it. I don't think I understand it either. But yeah, like what is it to like sink? So I think what I do is like I imagine what it could mean and then I don't actually look it up. So I'm like, does sink a pit mean they just like collapsed to the like ground and there's a pit, we sunk it. So I don't know. Like I'm the same way as you, but I'm not too worried about it. Like I don't understand. Just doing businessy stuff.
I think it just means they all take their pits and they go over the well area, and then they just use their armpits and they're just like bear
I
down
thought
on
you were
it.
gonna say something serious. I was like, "Oh, go on.
No,
Tell me more."
I don't.
Take
I
their
don't know what
armpit,
sink a pit
sink a
means.
pit. I don't know, but no, I don't. I don't feel dumb because coal mining is a almost, hopefully, almost dead industry. So,
Yeah, hope so.
but I was more just like enamored with like her commanding presence at the job site, even from season 1, just throughout. Like when she comes to the job site, she was like, what the hell are you doing? Like, what is this?
Mhm.
Tech me. Like, what are we doing here? How are we going to make this more efficient? How much does it cost? In season 2, they kind of bordered a little bit on almost too much of a taskmaster. Like when she was starting to be really picky with the servants. Do you remember that? She was like, button your shirt all the way. And she like
Oh,
flipped out on Thomas or whoever it was. I get the two confused. The
I
one who
can't remember
has
it in the show, but from the Diaries, I remember. Yeah, she's a huge snob and yeah, very much what is it? A micromanager, you
yeah.
know. It's weird because when I read the Diaries, I felt like what they were trying to portray was that she's completely a master in terms of she's a woman running things, like you said. Like this is so outstanding for her time. But I also feel like they have to convey, if they're trying to be accurate, which we know they are, they have to convey that she like didn't really know what she was doing because of the way they didn't let women in on how to
Yeah.
do things. So in the Diaries, they talk about how she really has to try hard to understand. You know, she's constantly asking various people, "What do you charge for this?" Blah blah blah. You know, how do you run your storeroom? You know, as far as even just running an estate. You know, it's like it's not as open the information back then.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. And when you say it that way, I think they did a really good job because she goes to um and again, sorry, I'm not really getting the names right, but she goes to one person and says, "Hey, if I sink this coal pit here, will it flood my coal pit over
Mm-hmm.
there?" And the one guy was like, "Absolutely not." And then she goes to somebody else. She goes, "Well, I'm actually good because somebody told me that it wouldn't." And he goes, "Did he tell you that? Because absolutely it will." And so you
Yeah.
could see she was like, "Shit, I actually have no idea. What am I going to do now? The two people I'm coming to are telling me different things."
Mm-hmm.
So that was a great way to showcase that because she didn't have existing knowledge about any of it. But she was doing a great job faking it until she's making it.
Yeah, very good at that skill for sure.
Yeah, because it
Of
fooled
course,
me.
yeah. Um, the big electric moment in episode one is when Anne and Anne reunite. We get that big kiss, and then the half business, half romance bedroom scene. I think you already pointed out like they really did use up all the good hookup scenes at the beginning of the season, and
Yeah.
there was like none left at the end because I guess
Mhm.
they weren't hooking up in real life back
Yeah.
then at the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
um,
I mean, there's a very few. It's just very few, and they're usually like more perfunctory and just like kind of like
I mean,
spaced
in the
out.
finale, they show a fantasy of Ann Lister remembering when she hooked up with Mariana. So they
That
go
was
the
a
other way.
roller coaster. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was such a ride. I was like,
Your eyes.
"Whoa." I know. I was like,
Lister's eyes are so big. Right?
because I was like, "Oh my God, is she doing Ann Walker dirty again? Or
Yeah,
is this
right.
a flashback?" And then she like rolls over and there's nobody there. And I'm like, "Oh, she was having alone time.
She's doing her dirty in her
Nice."
dreams. You ever do that with your partner when you're like, you cheated on me in my dreams. I'm gonna be
Well,
mad at you in
usually
real life
it's
now.
stuff like really like household domestic stuff. That was like, "You left me all the dishes while I was at work." You know,
In my
it's
dreams.
nothing. It's in my dreams. Yeah, it'll be like, "You didn't scoop the
Oh,
litter
that's sweet.
boxes in my dream."
Oh, it's really sweet. I have to say, the scene in the North York moors when they're at the Anne Walker's with her painting instructor and they're at the ruins of a monastery. That's probably my favorite scene from the whole season two. Anne Lister walking up and admiring her from above. I just love that.
Yeah, and I remember you posted about that at the time, and I was like, 100% agree. It's beautiful. It kind of reminds me a little bit of there's a scene in Little Women, very same thing where she's like painting in Paris and it's like this
Is this
pastoral
the Winona
theme.
Ryder one or the new one?
Yes, it's the
Okay.
only one as far as I'm concerned, and I will die on that hill.
Listeners, what a treat you're in for. We're getting Titanic like VHS references. Winona, Little Women. Yes. I need to
When
rewatch Little Women. I don't remember the scene
oh,
you're talking about.
it's so she Amy goes to Paris to study painting and she has these little watercolors and it's all this
Actually,
like
I do
boat.
know what you're
Yeah.
talking about. Yeah, because that's
And
right around when I was like, wait, isn't it weird that the guy went from the one sister to the younger sister?
yeah,
But it's the book.
because in the book though, not to talk about Little
Yeah.
Women instead, but he said he always wanted to be in their family. So it was kind of like a not really about the women. I don't know. Anyway, it was a weird,
It's kind of weird.
complicated thing. Um, but that's what it reminded me of. And it was this beautiful, like pastoral scene. And yeah, it was very optimistic mood to start the show.
Yeah,
Or
really
like
beautiful.
halfway. Yeah, it was beautiful. And she's very good at
Another
painting.
thing, yeah, I didn't really notice she was good. So what she was doing there was working for you.
I guess so. I think so, yeah. Maybe I was just enamored with the whole scene and I'm just assuming she was a genius. I don't know, maybe not.
What if they had just put like some stick figures there, like they made Anne Walker
Wow.
really shitty at painting?
I'm sorry, but that's amazing. And I would definitely, that's why we didn't get a third season. It's because they didn't include such comedy gold.
Yeah, we needed some Easter eggs. Come on,
She was
Sally.
just painting giant Easter eggs. Oh, it's too funny. Oh, it's great. But yeah, it was a beautiful scene.
I didn't catch this the first time, but the second on my rewatch of season 2, they are like really hard on Tib here in the first episode. Anne and Anne go to the Norcliffs for dinner, and Tib's brother is all, we have way too much food. The cooks must have thought my enormous sister was coming. She's so huge and fat. Have you met her? He calls her a little ogre. And then he says he loves her dearly.
So glad we're talking about Tib. I agree. And also Tib is pretty much a apparition in this season because she comes up like what once and then twice like the second time way later. It's a shame.
I feel like
Because
we're gonna oversay this in the podcast, but like, is this why the show was canceled? Because they underused Tib? What the hell?
what charisma. And honestly, so if I can, and I doing a comparison with another movie that awesome lesbian Christmas movie, need I say more?
Oh, Happiest Season.
Yeah. So that thing where she's like, "Oh, I'm in love with this girl," and I didn't think they had any chemistry. And then the other lady, from Slater-Kinney. No, not Slater-Kinney. No.
What are you talking about? You mean Aubry Plaza?
Aubry Plaza. Sorry, anyway. Don't
From
forget about
Parks
the
and Rec?
Slater-Kinney thing. Yes, Aubry Plaza, and she's obviously superior. And they have this
Mhm.
awesome chemistry. I think about that when I think about Tib and annelister versus Anne Walker. Because Anne Walker and
Oh.
annelister, I don't really ever think have like terrific chemistry because maybe they have good chemistry, but they don't like relate on an intellectual
Whoa.
level.
Hot take here. Ida doesn't think Anne Walker and Ann Lister have chemistry in the
I
show.
they might have chemistry, but I don't think they relate on an intellectual level. And I think she
Okay.
intimates that several times. She's like, like she like reads the letter. She's like, "That's cute that you're writing this letter like a 10-year-old." Like she says it, but she doesn't say it, you know? But
Oh,
then
yeah.
Tib and also Mariana and all these other bitches who are like, "Oh, speak to me in poetry." And then Anne Walker is like, "I had a nice walk today and I went to, and I don't know. I think it's a very good example of domestic bliss, without all the drama of people who are, you know, focused on
Wait,
that sort of
are you
thing.
saying Ann Lister and Ann Walker are domestic bliss?
Yes, I think so because she found
Oh.
somebody who could balance her out, who
But they
didn't.
struggle living together. Like they
Yeah,
really struggle.
it was a good recipe, but yeah, they still struggled. I thought it was a good. I'm like, shouldn't this work out? But then Anne Walker, of course, has her own little touch of crazy, which I hate to say that because that's unfair, If it was, but she does. She has a little taste of crazy, and she was not. That was unfair. She probably just had regular old anxiety, but since it was never treated like it should have been, she was just like treated like
According to
this.
her doctors, she was inflicted with money. They all said she would be fine if she didn't have money.
But Tib was so how they portrayed her, and again, I watched the movie, The Secret Diaries of Miss Ann Lister. The Tib in the movie
Where is
is
this? Sorry, let's explain to our listeners. The Secret Diaries of Ann Lister. This is a movie that was BBC?
yes. So
Okay.
it was a BBC movie, and you will not know anybody in the movie, but because I don't know any of these people. Maxine Peake, Anna Maidsley, and Susan Lynch. It came out in 2014, I want to say, or
Okay.
2010. 2010. So it's mad
Wow.
old. So 12 years
2010.
ago. Um, they're terrific, and Ann Lister is a ginger. And I'll let you soak that in because that's not even historically accurate. So, but it was
I would just
good.
like to We are on this podcast. We support gingers. Just
We do.
letting you
No, I
know.
wasn't saying that as a bad thing. Just that
Okay. Yeah.
annelister is reportedly not and was a very
Right.
brunette in the
Yeah.
pictures that you see of her.
For sure.
So that was a good choice. Of course, like good acting isn't like copycatting. It's good acting and she does a
Hmm.
good job. But in there the Tib is completely different than the show. And I still think they underplayed her in the show because it was a different thing. It was still good.
Really? So you
Yeah,
didn't like the Tib from the show? I thought
I
she did
like
awesome.
no, I loved her.
I
She was
am on the
underplayed.
sauce.
Yeah, she was underplayed. Like, why couldn't we have more of that Tib?
Oh yeah,
And
we needed
there
more
was more
Tib.
of that Tib to be had.
Yeah. Um.
I am on the
Yeah, I think that
sauce.
was a mistake. They should have given us more Tib. Yeah, I mean, Tib is only really in episode 2, and you reminded me, Ida, also in the finale when we learned that her mom has passed.
Yep.
I think it's her mom that passes. But in episode 2 alone, she has so many iconic quotes. Does she know of the vast, rich tapestry of your past? Just so many great quotes.
Yeah, she was I'm actually just googling right now Tib gentlemanjack quotes. Um oh, it's
I
great.
actually wrote down a bunch of my notes, I think.
Oh,
Uh,
she was very quotable. She was very charming. She was a
oh,
very
fruity
big
past.
person, and I don't mean to say that based on her brother's comment of calling her an ogre. She was just a
Mhm.
very charismatic, and I thought that, and again, based on the Tib from the movie, she was taking it super well. That Ann Lister was just like moving
See,
on.
it's interesting you say that because I have some things in my notes about how I didn't catch this the first time, but after reading the diaries, when I rewatch this scene in episode 2 where Tib sits down at the lunch table, I noticed that like Tib is really trolling Ann Lister because she is referencing
Oh,
Mrs. Milne, whom Ann Lister had a relationship with, and then she names drops Mariana, and you can tell how uncomfortable Ann Lister is
okay.
because Ann Walker doesn't know about any of these past relationships, and I absolutely think Tib is just ribbing Ann Lister, and it I think contributes to Ann Lister like wanting to get away from Tib.
I take it back. You were totally right. That was and it was based on my lack of knowledge of at the time of knowing that she was a previous I was not because I was again thinking of the Tip from the movie and I was like
Oh yeah.
that's not Tip. That's a different Tip. That's a different person named Tip,
Mm.
whatever. I don't know. So now that you say that, absolutely. She was trolling and she was trying to
Yeah,
cause trouble. But then she comes up to
which
her
I love.
when they're like standing together and I think she gives her very kind, I can't remember what it is, but she gives her very kind words. She's very
Ann Lister
sweet to Ann Lister. No Tib to Ann
when they're
Lister.
at
She like
the museum.
or is it like sweeter? Is it like more like she gives her advice
I
about
mean, the
Ann Walker?
conversation when I think they're at the Louvre at that point is
Yes. Yep.
she's really dogging Ann Walker. She's like, "Oh, she doesn't seem kind of what you
Yeah,
were saying
that's it.
earlier. Like, she doesn't seem like your intellectual match here. Aren't you gonna get bored?" I think she says that specifically. But I think it's interesting because you can tell like the actor who plays Tib did a really good job because it's
Mhm.
not like Tib in the show seems like she thinks she has a chance with Ann Lister. Like she knows like Ann Lister, that's gone. That ship has sailed.
Yeah.
But like I do think that stuff is coming from like why wouldn't she like Ann Walker? She must be jealous, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but I agree with her though. Like if I were in that situation, I would have been like, "Oh yeah, like Ann Lister, you're like a dynamo. Like you rock every room you're in. You make a huge impact and your Ann Walker is like quiet,
Mhm.
mousy a little bit." And it's like, "Whoa, is that who you picked? Like you
Yeah.
have been with like so many people and you picked the person who's way below you on the like intellectual ladder." So I agree
I
with
like that
Tib,
word
but
dynamo.
yeah, she was total dynamo. Yeah.
Totally.
My
I do
favorite
want to go
no,
quickly. Oh, go ahead.
oops.
What's your
No,
favorite?
I was gonna skip ahead to another season. I'll try to be on
Oh,
track.
kitty. No, I do want to quickly go back to episode 1 and just mention I think there is a scene that was again more pivotal. I noticed on a rewatch, which was the scene with Ann Lister and one of the Norcliffe sisters. They're like kind of having a girls' moment where Ann Lister says, "Ann Walker loves me," and then she says, "And I'm fond of her. I don't know if you remember that. But
What
I thought it
episode
really
was
set
that?
this was episode 1. She's confiding in a friend, and the friend even again also suggests, like, is this girl, like, I heard she was crazy. And Lister kind of sticks up for Ann Walker, but then I just thought it was like, it really set up the season when Ann Lister is like, well, she loves me and I'm fond of her. I just thought, like, ooh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and I don't know, like that's kind of disheartening to viewers who don't know the Ann Lister story and her wanting that lesbian romance, which we've been denied, decades over decades. We have.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, okay, so they don't even make it. All right, but it's true that's actually reflective of their actual relationship. She started to like move away from feeling that amorous. So
Some
maybe
people
that,
think she never did, that, like, Mariana
yeah,
was her true love, and she never felt that same, like, I don't know, rub the sparks together type
yeah,
of love.
yeah, Mariana did, that was, if you read it, you read the diaries, you see that was the one. Mariana was the one. But
I don't know. I don't know if I walked away with that interpretation,
you
but that I
didn't?
think is
Okay.
accepted. Not
I mean,
necessarily.
I haven't read all of it yet, but yeah, tell me your
There's
interpretation
so
because
much to
you,
read.
okay,
I
yeah,
just
yeah.
I just don't totally walk away with, oh, Mariana was the one true love, and I don't know that I buy all
Was
that.
it Ann Walker was the one true love, or Ann Lister
No,
was the one true
certainly
love of
not.
Ann Lister?
Ann Lister was the one true love of Ann Lister. A truer
Can I
quote
just
cannot be said. Come
can I
on.
just say it?
Yeah.
Because like Marianne is crying because she's like, I just feel useless and you don't listen to me and you
Hmm.
don't, and then she's like, oh, my setup of the Alps has arrived. And like she's still crying and it's like, how self-centered are you? Like
Extremely self-centered.
so self-centered. So I'm like,
Extremely.
so I can't wait to read the rest of the diaries, but feel free to share. Do you think she's in love with Ann Lister, or do you think there
Yeah.
was?
Oh, absolutely. It doesn't change, Ida. It continues to be Ann Lister is in love with Ann Lister. And I don't blame her. She's pretty freaking amazing.
Yeah. No, I'd be in love with me if I was Ann Lister. I would.
Wouldn't you?
I totally would.
We
It's like,
also
look at me.
get you are amazing, Ida.
Thanks.
Episode 1 also, we get the introduction of the division of the estates plot line, which I would say is the overarching main plot line of season 2. I don't know, would you agree?
Yeah, and if you were to say that, maybe that's what drew viewers away. If you were to say the overarching highlight is the division of the estate. I don't think I've
Don't you
ever heard
think?
anything less sexy. You are totally right. Because we get Captain Sutherland front and center. We get Deadbeat Sister, who says maybe 3 lines in the whole
Oh,
season.
deadbeat sister. Ouch. That's fighting words.
I was
Wow.
on her team, to be fair. Jen was not on her team. She was like, fucking freaking say something. Like, you're just sitting there.
Okay.
And I'm like, but
The
she does. She ends up saying
the
stuff.
thing is
So,
that she's obviously a victim of Captain Sutherland to me.
yeah, totally. And it's like, you don't, if you're living with someone and you're under their roof and they're pretty much paying your bills, feeding you, feeding your kids, and they're kind of a psychopath, maybe speaking up isn't your best choice always.
Yeah.
So, have to give her some credit. And she
Yeah.
did speak up. So bravo to Elizabeth.
You called her a deadbeat sister, and then you ended up saying bravo to Elizabeth. I love
Roll those
it.
dice. It could go either way with me.
But yeah, a lot happens in episode 1. I mean, just a ton of stuff. Ann Lister takes it upon herself to inform the Priestleys and old Aunt Walker about all the plans she and Ann Walker have, which will come back to bite her in the ass later on when Ann Walker yells at her.
Yeah. Yep. I remember there's a lot of testiness between Ann Walker and Ann Lister in the second season that was not there before. And it could illustrate maybe Ann Walker is standing on her own 2 feet now. Or is it outlining and illustrating the tenseness between them as a couple? It could go both ways, actually.
Both.
Yeah.
I think both because as you say that, I think of course, yeah. Ann Lister fell for the person Ann Lister fell for was like a like a child kind of.
Mhm.
And now she's like kind of giving her permission, like, no, make decisions for yourself, stand up for yourself. So of course that person is going to then maybe use that to stand up to you, and
Yeah.
listener.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
good
Great
point.
point. It's kind of like treating that like it's like a child parent relationship, which is kind of weird. But in a way, annelister's like, oh, okay. You haven't done any of this before. Let me help you and guide you and show you the way. So yeah, it's actually a really good point.
Mm-hmm. So let's see. Let's get to the part where old Aunt Walker takes the ever living piss out of Ann Walker. The ingratitude, she says. This is because, again, Ann Lister has like informed her, oh, I'm going to be the new person in charge of Ann Walker's will and all this. And then Ann Walker's going to come back home and yell at Ann Lister in front of the servants. This is right after she's moved into Shibden. What a scene this was. Ann Lister comes out all smiles. She's like, how was she? And Ann Walker is just like, don't you ever speak to my aunt about me ever again.
Oh, I think I had blocked that out. I
Like,
think I
this was
blocked that
all in
scene out. That
episode
was
1.
awful.
So much happened in episode 1. Like, honestly, for the mixed reaction season 2 gets, the first episode of the season was just outstanding television to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy. So she was all smiles. She was like, and she does that too. She's like such a social, I'm going to say it again, dynamo. She really is. She knows how to please. She knows how to say the right things to everybody, even the people who hate her. Like when she says to Captain Sutherland later, she's like, how are you? And she pulls him up off the ground. Like she's so great at that. She comes at Anne is like, how is she? And she does that thing. And she was like, don't you ever talk to me in front of my servants ever again. Oh,
Yeah.
God, terrified me, chilled me to my bones. But yeah, such drama. If every episode would have gone like that.
Yeah.
Terrific stuff.
Well, and I think one thing I noticed on my rewatch is everything is loaded in the front. The first 4 episodes are just like pow, 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 drama, 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 entertainment, cheating, all this stuff. The back half of the season just almost comes to a screeching halt. And I know that's like they're trying to follow the diaries, but like I feel like they could have maybe like mixed up the timeline or something, because the way they did it, they loaded everything up on the front. I mean, like, even as a YouTuber, like that's like a pretty basic thing, is like, don't upload all your stuff up. Give somebody a reason to keep watching till the end,
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, episode 1 was packed with stuff.
Ida, we have so much we could talk about. Like, we could do a whole podcast just on episode 1.
Yeah.
We get the dramatic scene with Lydia Leonard balling up that letter Anne sent her and like hard crying while staring out the window, and cleaning her gun, like so much, like threatening to shoot the rude new servant. Like, episode 1 is insane.
Yeah. And the whole the strict disciplinarian attitude towards the servants. I know it was there in the first season, but the second season was almost like, whoa, she's like really harsh. The cleaning the gun, I forgot about that.
Don't you think she was probably like pretty terrible to work for?
Yeah. But also, if you did a good job and you never did anything wrong, awesome to work for.
I guess is it Holt? I guess Washington, her businessman.
Washington probably thought she was the best boss ever because he was an angel and he never did anything wrong ever. And even when he almost did, he was like, well, I'm sorry about that. It's like he's the best. Washington's one of my favorites.
I do like Washington. He seems like a good guy.
Yeah. And also that's another dropped storyline. His kid and the guy, well, I guess it's the same drop storyline because it's the Soudens.
Because he saw,
that came never mind. So it's that package was always, same drop storyline. It's a shame.
Let's see. Let's get on a little bit past episode 1 into episode 2, which is the big thing was them traveling through the Alps and stuff. And then, of course, we already talked about Tib. We meet her in episode 2. We have her great introduction. Yeah, it's kind of just the Anns living their best lives. We get some of the Tom pig murdering plotline. I honestly don't know how much we need to discuss it since, as we said, it ends up going absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
I think we kind of have said all we need to about the Soden pig murdering stuff.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if there's any nuggets that yeah, because they kind of cleaned that all up. Well, not really, but in season 1 with, the belt buckle, well, the infamous belt buckle, because that's all that's left from the dad. It's
Oh,
the
got it.
belt buckle, because that's what the pig can't eat. So then season 2, it's almost like, oh, we've got the daughter and the new husband, that weird thing, and then the brother and so the son, Thomas Souden, such an ace player. Like, I'm actually really bummed that it was dropped because he was a great
I mean,
actor.
they actually, now that you bring up the son, they actually made him an a-hole for no reason. Like they made him the worst new husband ever.
Yes, I agree. Like,
I guess they were like, let's just throw the whole thing away. We made him a murderer. Like at first it was justified, but now he's murdering everybody because
yeah.
that's just his go-to move now. Throw him in the pig pen,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
they're like, let's just make him a piece of crap husband too.
Now I'm like more annoyed about that because yeah, in the first, it's kind of like, yeah, in the first season, it's like, well, he had to, the dad was an abusive, drunk,
We were
piece
on
of
his
crap dad.
side.
I was on his side. And then the
Mhm.
second scene is like, why did the brother even have to be there?
Mm.
Like, let them just live in matrimonial happiness and forget the old brother and the gross, like, and they look alike. It's just
Oh
yucky.
yeah, it
Like
was
that.
obviously the same actor, right?
Yeah, very.
For sure. I don't.
Unless
I
that guy
mean,
does have a twin, and I'd believe that, but
I don't think so. I think I looked it up
no.
on IMDb. I'm
Oh,
pretty
okay.
sure it's the same
But I'm
guy.
like, why even do it? Why don't we keep, because I really liked him and he was so sweet with the girl. And then second episode or the second season, he's like, I don't want to be there anymore. It's like, oh shit. Well, that matrimonial happiness is gone. That's a shame. But yeah, no, we don't
Yeah.
need to talk about. I don't think I have anything more to say about the pig murderer family, which is what they will be known as. Sorry, Souden family.
Sorry, Soudens.
Sorry. Tell us what else you did.
Sucks to be you. The episode 2, we also get that kids witnessing the lesbian kiss. I think this kind of
Oh,
comes up at the end with Susanna Washington, when they show
mhm.
her like being fascinated by annelister teaching the
Yes.
season. Uh, but again, the kids witnessing the kiss ultimately doesn't really go anywhere.
No, it doesn't, except for that. That is the final
Except for that.
seed of that, where she was like, I saw annelister snogging Ann Walker. I think she
I know.
said
Are we going to be
snogging.
getting your British accent the whole podcast,
You're welcome. You're
listeners?
welcome. And it's also probably not York or at all period accurate. I'm just gonna but yeah, that's
What
all
are
we
the
hear about
chances
it.
the British fans of the show are listening to two Americans, anyways?
let's
So,
let's let's bring them forth because I would like to be ridiculed for my terrible, terrible British accent.
you
But
heard it, listeners. Ridicule her accent.
you can. It's okay. I'm not perfect. But that made me so anxious, that scene. That made me so anxious. Because even if it was a straight couple or whatever it is, how awkward to have a couple of kids randomly sitting in a mirror like there, but they didn't actually like go all the way, right? Like they kissed
So
and then
you
they
think?
left.
Do you think that's realistic? Yeah, I don't know if they. Yeah, I assume they were just kissing. Ugh, yeah, that's gross. If they want us
Yeah,
to
so
think
I'm
that more
like,
was going on.
I don't.
That's disturbing.
But the girl, so later she says, "Oh, I saw her snogging Ann Walker." So I think
Oh,
that
got it.
means that that's all that happened, which is good.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's like
yeah.
whatever, people kiss. So and then this whole like, I loved how they tried to like really build that up, like, but she's a lesbian, right? And people are like, so
Yeah.
please let's fast forward to that because God bless uh the lawyer, Mr. Gray. I was just saying, like, when we get to that point, the final episode, uh, thank God for Mr. Gray, because how he wraps up the whole.
Oh, right.
Yeah, she's a lesbian, but it's actually not illegal and you should shut your mouth thing. God,
Yeah,
I'd
that
live
was a
and die
great
for that
scene.
scene. So
Yeah.
good.
I was like, "Yes!"
But anyway, we'll get to that when we get to it.
Screw
But
all the homophobes.
seriously, it's like, yeah, and if you try to sue
So
her,
episode
it'll screw
2,
you over.
yeah. We get another banger of an ending for episode 2. Again, at the beginning of the season, they were ending with these like super exciting endings. This is the one where annelister squeezes the letter opener upon reading a letter from Mariana and her hand starts bleeding. Oh, it was just
Mhm.
so striking.
Oh, what was the letter was the one where she was starting to be alluding to the
Mariana.
fact that she was like unwell as a
Mhm.
result of their
Yeah.
separation, right?
Yeah,
Which I
I don't
think was
know if
kind of,
that's where
I was just gonna say it's like a day late and a dollar short for Mariana because this was a long time that, so I'm like,
yeah.
okay, you're coming in at the 11th hour. What?
Yep.
But yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, I think it's hard. I can't decide where I stand because I totally see your point. And especially when I'm watching the show, I find myself really in the like, come on, Mariana, like stop trying to ruin it for them. Like you had your chance. But then, reading the diaries, getting more mixed up between real life and show, I almost am kind of like, well, Ann Lister did try to hide the beginning of her relationship with Ann Walker from Mariana.
Yeah.
And I just have a feeling she was probably downplaying things until all of a sudden she was telling her about them being married. And so I bet it was like really jarring for Mariana.
Yeah, and well, let's take a moment to talk about Mariana and Lister and Lister getting to go on their honeymoon with them,
Oh
which
my
was a
God.
custom at the time. And I know you talked about that in your other YouTube video, which I really
Mhm.
enjoyed, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
The things that they don't talk about in Gentleman Jack,
Oh,
the
yeah.
little
5
secrets.
shocking
God,
things.
do way more than that because there's going to be way more shocking things.
Right. Yeah.
But the sister thing, but yeah, like they go on the honeymoon together, which was a custom at the time. So
This
like
is
friends,
listeners, we're referring
yeah,
to early in the background, Charles and Enlister, and Mariana. They all went on a honeymoon together, and Mariana's
yeah,
sister.
yeah. And in the diaries, she says she's writing to, I think it is the other sister, Anne Lawton, and she's like, it turns out that Mariana wishes that her and Charles would have gone tate a tate, or isn't that one on
Yeah,
one or
tete-a-tete, yeah, or
yeah, tate
however,
a tate.
yeah.
And it's like, oh, like, well, maybe because you banged your sister the whole honeymoon. So,
Yeah.
what drama? Like, what on
So much
earth?
drama.
Oh,
It's obvious why they made a show. There's a lot of
it's
drama.
true. But they really, like, they should have made a show of that part of her life. So, Mariana and then the honeymoon and then
Mm,
Mariana and then Tib and then that
right.
whole thing. And
Yeah, I don't know why, Sally Wainwright chose this age and period. I am sure she has her reasons. Um, but you're right. There was obviously a lot more options if they started earlier. But by them doing this, we can get some prequel stuff in. So maybe we'll
yes.
get that. Okay, episode 3, I feel like we can yada yada a bit. Besides exploding cowls, the big memorable thing that happens is at the very end when Ann Lister arrives at Mariana's and she sort of, Mariana yells at Ann Lister and she says, "You've destroyed me." And we get this quote where she says, "All because of some insipid little heiress who you're not in love with." We just spent a lot of time talking about Mariana, but I don't know if I know where you stand. Are you a Mariana head or a Ann Walker head? Like, are you Team Mariana or Team Ann Walker?
So I so me and Jen watched this together. Jen, by the way, is my fiance.
Woo, woo.
We watched this together, and we were like torn apart when the scene between her and Mariana
As a
like
couple,
happened.
you had a
Well, no, no,
temporary
no, no,
breakup.
no. We were like internally we were torn apart.
Yeah,
We were
yeah.
both mutually torn apart. So I don't say that like here's the thing. I get why she's very drawn to Mariana because they're like intellectual equals. We just said this a minute ago. But I am Team Ann Walker because Ann Walker is stable. Ann Walker is there for her. Ann
Mm-hmm.
Walker, she
She
does a little
commits.
speech. She commits. She's the one who is like, oh yeah, all my family is, not going to love this, but I'm going to move in with you. And to me, that means the world. And Mariana's like, oh, but my family wants me to marry this old dude who's probably a child molester, whatever it is, like the thing with the girl, the younger,
Mm-hmm.
gross thing. So
Yeah,
it's like,
Charles is gross.
Charles is disgusting, and they picked the perfect actor for Charles.
Yeah, he
God
does
bless
such a
that
good
guy.
job. Let me
Yo,
see.
so gross.
Who plays Charles?
I love how you keep on showing his picture, like when you did that YouTube video.
Mhm.
It's like his face just comes up, like because you did that. It was so great. It really like,
Rupert Van Sittart. He
oh,
is
of
just
course,
dead like that. You're right. He's such a
yeah.
good Charles.
Oh, so good.
Um,
And he's very stuffy, and he's like, oh, Miss Lister, okay, and there it is. There's your British accent again. But no, I'm not. I'm Team Ann Walker because Ann Walker did the work. Ann Walker put in the
Mhm.
time. Like, no, she's not going to sit there and rhapsodize about poetry and stuff with you, but she's going to be there for you. She's going to literally walk with your dead body all the way home, like take it in a carriage. Who's going to do that? Is Mariana going to do that? No. So I'm Team Ann Walker.
Oof! Ouch!
Hmm.
That's a sick Mariana burn. You wouldn't even come on,
Sorry.
Mariana. You wouldn't even escort my dead body back from Russia.
Yeah.
So
No. And if this was a YouTube live thing, we would do hashtags, like hashtag Team Mariana, hashtag Team Ann Walker.
ooh, yeah.
Some pros to Mariana. Obviously gets her going in the bedtime scene, which,
But so does
that's
Ann Walker.
so
Ann
does Ann
Lister's just a
Walker.
horn dog.
Yeah,
She's
she
just
really is.
turned on by women. Sure,
Yeah.
kind of reminds me of me. Episode 4 is going to be a huge episode in the season. This will be the penultimate cheating moment and will one time turn down Mariana and then subsequently relent, ultimately engaging in the cheating. This was such great television, though. Really, through episode 4, I thought this was almost as good as it gets, TV wise, acting wise, script wise, all of it. 1 through 4, and then of course 4. Just crazy. What did you think of all of this?
So episode 4, and I believe that's also the episode where she's in front of all the people talking about political stuff, and that's a cool. But with Mariana, the cheating, yes, it's very much the trope of, oh, but I miss you, and look what you've done to me. And she's like, no, I'm putting up boundaries because that's healthy. But let's be friends and let's link arms and walk around the garden. But I'm touching you
Yeah, I'll come to
now.
your room late at night.
What? Like, set up those very like cloth boundaries.
Yeah. She took like a tissue like that you blow your nose with, and she's like, and she put it a little bit between them, not blocking their faces, but a little to the side. She's like, here's my boundary. Oops, it floated away.
Oh, shoot. Well, that was my one boundary.
Well, guess we have to have sex.
Yeah. And yeah, so I'm a human being too, and I just feel like if I was in that situation, I'm trying to like feel that out. I totally get that, but it's not like Ann Walker is totally giving her the shaft. I get it in the diaries. It feels that way. No kiss. January 7th, no kiss. By the way,
Well, I
for
would
our
just like to say, even if somebody is giving you a shaft, that doesn't excuse cheating.
No, not at all. And I'm sorry I made it sound like that a little bit.
No.
But yeah, it does not excuse cheating at all. And I'm very anti-cheating and it grosses me out. But even like here, it's like, what on earth? Like, what walls did you have to break down to get to this place? Like I don't like it, and I get that that's actually the real story. So it's not like the writer turned this character bad for me. But I just hate it because I see Lister as this like powerful, strong, like she still believes in God, even though she's like, but that part of the Bible, they just like they didn't really write that correctly. Like that's
but
wrong.
she has a
Like
point, Ida.
she
It
does have a
doesn't
point.
mention any women on women stuff.
Absolutely has a point. And tell that to everybody who's talked to me about the Bible, all right? Hear that, listeners. Whatever.
I'm sure
No,
the people who have talked to you about their religious views on homosexuality are listening to this podcast.
God, I hope so. I'll send them a link. They sent me a
Please
Bible verse. I'll send them a link to a lesbian podcast.
love it.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Okay. That scene when annelister wakes up the morning after she does the deed, I just feel like Saran Jones just like killed it. Like she's so talented. You can just feel how low annelister is, as she should be.
As she should be. Oh, 100% agree. She's a terrific actress. And I don't know if I've seen her in anything else. But yeah, like she's not proud, which deviates a little bit from the self-centered person who might feel a little bit exalted in that moment. Like, I actually kind of made it okay. This is great. But no, she feels a good amount of shame and a good amount of guilt. I think that's good for her character.
Yeah. Yeah. Guilt is good. It's not always bad. Sometimes you deserve it.
Mariana springs back though. Mariana's got a new spring in her step.
Oh, after they get it on, she just has this cheesing grin on her face. The only time it leaves her face is when she is lecturing annelister, saying, "I'm not the other woman." That's what I was doing a bit at the opening of the podcast, when she says I think it's the title of the episode, like she's the other woman.
I'm not the other woman. She is.
Yes, and such a great line. Another one of the like great lines of the season. And one of the reasons it's such a great line is because it's not true. Really, this episode is going to be the end for Mariana and annelister. She is going to move on and remain the rest of her life with Anne Walker. We don't necessarily know for sure she never cheats again, but I don't believe it's recorded in any of the diaries that she cheats again.
And knowing her, she would have recorded it in her diary. She was very thorough. She was obsessed with recording stuff. So she would have wrote it down. So
annelister's like, 2 p.m. Thought I was going to break wind. Didn't, but thought about it.
It's true. And I just want to I know people are listening and maybe didn't Google the code that annelister writes about, but when we say no kiss, it means no sexy time. In case you guys don't know. So that's how annelister recorded it in her diary. So kisses. So if she said a girl gave her a kiss, that meant they went all the way. So whenever she started diary entry.
Is that your understanding? I didn't know that.
Is that not your understanding?
I don't know. This is the first time hearing it.
Yeah.
I know when she said I incurred the cross, I know that means she masturbated.
Oh. I didn't know that part. And again, I'm not done reading it, but what I've gotten so far is that kiss, for the most part, means sexy stuff. Okay. Because she did manage to exclude being totally explicit. But when it says no kiss, that means we did not have sex.
Bill Clinton style. I did not have sex with
What? You're giving a 1990s reference? What is this? You brought up Bill Clinton on your own?
Yeah, I did. I'm doing it. You're not the only one that can do that, Ida. I think you referenced this. We at the end of the episode, we get the scene that did happen in real life. It's in the diaries where annelister stands up at a navigation subcommittee meeting and very passionately explains why they must invest in the town's future. They're voting on whether to install special locks in the canal system. I really thought it showed how special annelister was for a woman in her time. We kind of already discussed that. But episode 4 was a good example of how they gave us just like a ton of drama, and then they gave us some of the political stuff. It was a good balance, I think, later in the season, though. Again, they just remain true to the diaries, and that balance goes
Yeah. Yep, that's great. And I also like that the Laurel branch was passed on between Jeremiah Rawson and herself. So that's how I interpret it. Anyway, he was like, good job.
Right. They have a good conversation and they're going to like put their differences aside for politics, which annelister, we've referenced that some of the fans don't like how political the show gets. I know you like it. But that really is the real annelister. She was extremely political. She did not care that she was a woman. She did everything she could as a landowner, including lots of sketchy, like shady stuff. Like she didn't want renters who wouldn't vote Tory. So the show was just really being accurate in that
Yeah.
regard.
Yeah. And I just don't think that's it. And I would be curious to know if it was a matter of funding, if it was a matter of like the Souden family not liking that their story was dragged in the mud. I just don't, I think that it was, they kept such good faith with the storyline, but they kept it interesting in my opinion, but who knows why they decided to cancel
I mean,
it.
they do up to this point. I would say there's an argument to be had as far as them giving us the right balance, because like I thought episode 1 blew me out of the water, and I just don't have that phrase to describe episode 8 or even any of the back half of the season episodes.
Yeah, the later episodes, especially the one about the division of the estate. And again, I was weirdly on the edge of my seat. So I don't know if this is a weird part of my life right now, but I was like, mainly because I was so angry at Captain Sutherland. I was like, oh, he better not. Oh, is that what he's going to say? But I get that that's not the most exciting storyline.
I
It's
mean,
like,
it was for
why?
you.
Yeah, it was for me.
But
But mainly because I was so annoyed at him, and I thought of him as a predator in the whole episode. He was. We don't need to. Sorry, I keep skipping ahead.
no, that's okay.
But excited to talk about Captain Sutherland when we get there.
I mean, let's talk about him. I feel like we've if there's not is there anything else you wanted to say about like the first half of the season?
Nope.
I think we can head to the back, because I mean, besides Anne and Anne busting Eugenie and Matthew getting it on in the forest, Captain Sutherland is the big dramatic thing. I'm kind of joking about that, like, although it might be the most memorable moment of the back half of the
Taking a pause there, would love to share how I enjoyed thoroughly that Anne Walker chose to laugh and walk away, and annelister was like. She was
too.
Like, it was the best. But was Eugenie a actual person, or was that okay?
Yeah, she's in the diaries. Yeah.
Do we have record that she was a massive SLUT? Because that's how they're portraying her in the show. Like,
I love that you spelled that out.
I don't know. I didn't know if you censor this.
I don't think so. I don't think any of that stuff really happened. I think they were like, oh, but I could be wrong. I think they made that stuff up. I don't recall reading anything about them busting Eugenie. I'm pretty sure in real life, and they kind of do this on the show, but there's no way the real analyst, like, she would have like had her shot or hung. Like, the real annelister was such like a curmudgeon conservative, like biddy, like when it comes to like punishing people and stuff like that. So I'm fairly confident that stuff is like not a part of the real story.
Yeah. And it was very not so like what would keep people watching if not for like this random subplot of servants like getting it on, but they also had zero chemistry. They were literally only having sex with each other because that was just what they wanted to do. And like Eugenie, I don't understand her character. I don't, because she never actually she doesn't have a lot of dialogue. She does have some subtitle dialogue. No, I don't really know her, like, what's she feeling? What is she going through? And you get a little bit at the end when she was like, you can't fire me because I don't even know where to go. So I'll marry this toad or whatever the hell.
She does call him a toad. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, he has a farm. And I'm like, does he though? And like, that was a drop stuff, which is fine. I don't really care about but so that was salacious and hilarious.
No, but I think you made a good point when you said we don't know anything about Eugenie, and so they kind of use it for just, and I think for what they use it for, it works. It, like, we're literally talking about it now, but I do wonder if, like, could they have added some levity to the back half of the season with more make up stuff about Eugenie? You made up the slutty stuff, as you said, like or what, I don't even know if it's considered, it's that back then all these prudes would have considered it that way. But like, also give us, what does she have a sense of humor? Where does she come from? I imagine like they could have created a lot of storylines because she appears to be a BIPOC person who is only surrounded by white people. There was certainly should have been a lot of things that they could have explored with this character. So I think that was a dropped ball.
Totally. Huge opportunity. I very subtly, I can pick up on the fact that she's a little bit of a snob, Eugenie. So when annelister was like, do you have an intention of marrying this man? And she goes, no.
Right.
So it's like, you do get that little like vibe of she's a cool kid, and maybe she doesn't have a lot of depth. That could be her character
French.
too. Yeah.
Oh, you think that's her?
No, I mean, like,
what's her character because she doesn't have much depth.
Yeah, well, maybe she just doesn't like have a whole lot to say, and that's
she's got stuff to say. They didn't have time, and I just feel like they were like, we'll veer from the diaries, but not too much. I don't know.
Maybe they. So weird to stop there though. Let's have them have sex in one of the back buildings, but that's it. That's the last thing we're gonna have them do.
Speaking of Titanic, it was a little Titanic-esque when they have them in the buggy. I'm half waiting for a hand to go down the sweaty thing.
Oh my God, that's exactly what I thought. I was like, where are we right now?
Ida was like, this is just like VHS tape number 2.
Tape number 1, man.
Oh,
tape
sorry, number 1.
Excuse you. But yeah, Eugenie, and then the first, which I don't know if you recognized, but the guy that was going to marry her because she was maybe pregnant, maybe not.
He's from Downton Abbey, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet angel.
Did he like just makes like a cameo in season 2, right?
Yeah, we never see him. Oh no, yeah, and he's at the laying of the
foundation,
the foundation stone. Yeah, so he's there, but no, like we do
another underutilized character.
Gosh, and Mrs. Cordingley, she gets a tongue lashing, and that's it. So I'm gonna mention Game of Thrones, and I don't know if you noticed my like wine glass here. I drink and I know things for you Game of Thrones people. But in Game of Thrones, I feel very like in that last season, I don't know if they knew they were going to throw in the towel, which God, I hope so, because it was like a million seasons. But it felt like people were just really phoning it. It's an unpopular thought. Let me rephrase.
I want to hear the unpopular thought.
I felt to a certain extent not the characters, but the writers were maybe phoning it in a little bit.
Oh yeah,
like it really.
No, that's a popular thought.
Okay, good. All right.
No, the actors like pretty much came out and said like, we didn't want to do this, or I don't remember what it was, but
God. But that's how I felt about a lot of that last season of the Game of Thrones. So this season of Gentleman Jack. So Mrs. Cordingley, oh, what's that? She's got this back thing. She's going to go visit her sister. Is she still going to be a cook? Oh, this guy proposed to Eugenie. He was going to throw it on his life for her. Oh, Thomas, he killed his dad. Oh, all this stuff. And it's like in Game of Thrones, it was like, oh, we don't care about that anymore. Never mind. Just don't think about that anymore. And let's roast the whole village. Spoiler, sorry. Out of context, you trust me, you won't know what that
for
means.
Game of Thrones. Yeah, that was that reference. Yeah, you're right, Court. We did have a ton of dropped. No, I would never edit out this gold of. First of all, who isn't going to complain about the last season of Game of Thrones? This is going to be the most relatable part of the podcast.
God, so yeah.
Don't worry about that. Yeah, they dropped a lot of the side character. They're not even side characters. They're because like Marion's a side character. Accordingly, and them are like almost like extensive background characters, but they could have given us more of them. I think
they could have given us more. I would have loved to see more.
Yeah, I agree. Me too. Really, the last 4 episodes of the season follow the battle, like we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, between Anne Walker and Captain Sutherland for the division of the estate. Were you surprised they didn't dive more into Anne Walker's suspicions about the cheating?
And so they did mention it once, and that was just in the final episode. I don't think I was surprised because Anne Walker is characterized as being, gosh, I'm going to try to remember how Mariana puts it. Insipid's not a good way, but
she does say insipid.
She does say insipid, but I don't know if that's a good way to describe it. She wasn't. I don't think it would have made sense with her character to be super like, Oh, I got a cat eating my plant. There we go.
Oh no.
Yeah. This is a precious like background here. Can't. Come
I
here.
know. I'm loving it.
Thank you.
What's your cat's name?
This is
So
Mycroft.
just
It's another literary character for all of you
my
Sherlock. Yeah.
Mycroft.
Yep. It's a Sherlock Holmes reference.
I love it.
Yeah. Come here, fatty.
I love it. Of course,
So,
you're a Sherlock Holmes fan because,
of
like,
course
Sherlock
I am.
Holmes is awesome, and you're awesome.
Well, mainly the Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock Holmes. There you go.
I agree.
So the cheating thing, it didn't surprise me that they didn't bring it up too much, especially Anne Walker, because I don't think that there was that much evidence to allude to the cheating happening. So yes, there's all of the pensive reading of letters,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was like, if I were to see Jen like reading her texts on her couch, and if I could see that it was some like other woman,
Mm-hmm.
and she's just making these faces like,
Mm-hmm.
but she doesn't anyway because people send her funny memes. It's the same face. So I don't even know if I would be able to tell.
It would be more like Jen goes away over the holidays.
Yes, there we go.
And is super sketchy when she comes back. Also, you read one of her texts where she's referring to you as like her little friend.
Yeah.
Because the show clearly shows that Anne Walker, when Ann Lister returns, I think it's in the same episode. I think it's in episode 4. But whenever she returns, Anne Walker like makes a face towards the camera because Ann Lister says, "Oh, I won't go back," which is like, "Oh, why not? What happened?" And so they give us a tease, and then I think you're right. I think they're focused on being accurate to the diaries, and in the diaries, Anne Walker did stay with Anne, and they had other things to worry about. They had the financial stuff, they had the wills, the division of the state, and I think probably we don't see more suspicions because maybe in real life Anne Walker just decided I'm not going to bring it up with her. So
Yeah, and she does bring it up, but the super avoidable conflict of why not bring her to meet your friends? Like they seem like nice people. She's a lady too. Why would it have been that weird? And again, I'm excited to read that part of the diaries. You're way ahead of me on that one as to why she didn't want to bring Anne Walker with her to see her friends. And
Well, I
that's the
think it's
catalyst.
because I think in real life she doesn't bring her because Ann Lister wants to climb social ladders, and Anne Walker I don't think was a high up on the social. I think she had money, but I don't think I don't know. That's just a guess, but
Yeah,
I
no,
feel like that's what it is.
well, and you're reading,
Like she
if
was
you read,
almost embarrassed of Anne Walker, right?
yeah, which is wild because she like had land and she was, but it was a
Mhm.
historical, but I don't know if Anne Lister's friends were that historically grounded like she was. And she gets
Mm-mm.
teary-eyed with the guy who comes over to like look at the house and is like talking about the etchings on the window, and she gets teary-eyed.
Mhm.
She's like, this house is in my bones,
Parker.
in my blood, in
Yeah.
my soul. Yeah. And she gets really like, because she does
Yeah.
think she's better because of her family and her,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And I think that's what it is. I think we're both seeing the same thing. It's like that at that time there was like a hierarchy, and I just don't think Anne Walker was quite at the level that Ann Lister thought she should be at to bring her to some of these things.
yeah,
Maybe.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of wild, but if you think about it, Ann Lister, that was very important to her to always, and she does the thing where she goes to the child's grave, which I want to
In the
go there,
finale.
by the way.
Yeah.
How freaking cool! Like that awesome
Let's talk about it.
marble.
Let's just get to the
Yeah.
finale. Let's do it.
Okay.
In the finale, I would say that's probably the most memorable scene of the episode. When I was covering the finale, I initially didn't cover this scene. I think because I didn't understand it. What did you? Let me hear your thoughts on this scene. Let me set it up though. They basically break up at the beginning of the finale. Um, and it's tied to what we were just discussing. Anne Walker or Anne Walker doesn't feel like the promises Ann Lister has made her have been followed through on, yada yada. They break up, and then they go to this church, and Ann Lister is like talking about this little girl who has died named Penelope. What did you think of this?
So there was a lot of the last episode that really confirmed for me that Ann Lister is incredibly narcissistic and self-centered. This was a page out of that book because Anne Walker is literally saying, now, again, put this into a modern context for yourself. If your significant other, you say to them, hey, I found out you cheated on me. And they're like, well, and they don't really address it. And they're like, so because of that and a lot of other things, I'm breaking up with you. Okay, cool. Whatever. Can we go visit this, like, let's not say cemetery, but just like thing of significance for me. And then the first thing on your mind is to talk about who am I and like why am I the way that I am? And like
Mhm.
talk about yourself. Like that's what she was doing. And that's what that really meant for me. In that, and I'm not saying like her being self-centered is like that means she's an evil person. It's just kind of like that was where her mind went in stress. She's like, well, this probably has to do with me and why am I the way that I am? And how she was talking about the child, she was like, well, what if I was this child? And what if it's kind of hard to follow. I did have a little difficulty following that.
It's a hard scene to follow. That's another
Yeah.
reason I struggled commenting on it when I was doing my YouTube videos. The second time I watched this, it gave me more meaning because I had read the diaries. And I feel like Ann Lister is reaching out to Anne Walker here. And I feel like she is telling her, she's acknowledging the loss of their ability to cement their relationship. She has a line earlier in the diaries or in the show, I can't remember where. She's with Veer, and Veer is complaining about being nothing but a baby maker. And Ann Lester says, surely children are the cement of any marriage. I think she's trying to convey to Anne Walker how dedicated she is to her, even though we as an audience know, not that dedicated because she kind of cheated on her. But it's interesting that you took that as her talking about herself. On rewatch, I took that scene as her um still cementing things with Anne Walker, oddly, even though
Sure.
they just broke up.
Well, it was honestly kind of confusing. So it could be that, but then also there's a previous episode where she was like, well, maybe I want, and Walker's like, maybe I want to have kids. And Lister was
And
like,
she gets mad.
she's like, yo, I can't give you kids, so shut up already. And so there
But
was
don't you
that
think this
thing.
is connected to that
Yes,
probably?
that's what I'm saying. So I'm like, now we're like talking about, well, this kid, and then Veer, she was talking about kids, and now we're getting this maternal side out of Ann
Mhm.
Lister, which was very interesting. And
It
then
was
she
out
was
of
just
left field.
and she was like, well, maybe I'm the child. Like maybe that's me. Maybe that could have been me. And
Mhm.
it was incredibly hard to follow. She was trying to
But
reach out. She's
I
trying to
think she did say
communicate.
what you're
Yeah.
saying, but she also said maybe that she's like crying through tears. She's like, I thought this could be our child,
Oh. Well, if
like
I
her and Ann
missed that,
Walker's
then that
child.
would be very much more meaningful.
It's meaningful, but then like 15 minutes later or something, we get her saying, quote, perhaps I shall be at large again, wink,
Oh my God. Like terrific. Not terrific. Kind of sketchy, but terrific as far as plot development and character goes. Cause it's like, oh, because and I don't want
They're
to say
so
I
back
really
and forth.
they
They're
really
so
are.
on the rocks.
Because she I'm gonna like share a little bit here. I'm not gonna say that I relate with that because no, I would never cheat on anybody, but I feel like I can relate a lot with Ann Lister in this fact that being in a social environment, been hung out with me, like that's the energy that I get. I love
I
you
love hanging
too.
out with you,
You
Ida.
too. Oh,
Ida is so fun to
mhm.
hang out with, listeners.
Oh, thanks.
Sorry, go on.
Come to the Twin Cities, hang out with me. Um, but that I get a lot of my energy from that. Get a lot of my energy of meeting new people and being able to be like, hey, look what I can do. And they're like, wow, that's so cool. And Ann Lister is such a little 10-year-old in that way because she goes into the world and she's like, look at me. And I'm saying a funny joke and I'm charismatic and she wins people over and she just digs it. And I think when she's like, oh, I could be single again, that's actually pretty great because that worked out really well for me. So that's her first thought. So I'm not saying obviously like I would feel a level of devastation, of course, if that was my situation, but I can relate with that feeling of being like, I like the social aspect, but Anne Walker doesn't want to keep her from any of that. That's the crappy thing. She's not like, oh, let's stay home and be homebodies. Anne Walker's like, yes, let's go to London, let's go to York, let's travel. And she
Yeah, but she also kind of like balks on going sometimes on the trips. But I see what you're saying. For me, I feel like this is a great what we're talking about. I feel like relationships can take on two stages. obviously it doesn't apply to everybody, but you've got the more stable form where even at the worst of times, you're not like picturing yourself moving out and banging the whole world.
Yeah.
And then you've got maybe the beginning of a relationship or a less stable time, or, not necessarily the beginning, it could be at any point, but a less stable time in the relationship where every time you have a fight, you tell them, I can't wait to fuck other bitches. And like you are, opening up Craigslist and looking at apartments or whatever. Like, I feel like they, at least in the time the show is portraying, they're in that unstable period where annelister is straight to picturing herself being at large because that's
Yep.
how unstable their relationship is.
Yeah. No, it's a really
Which
good
is
point. And
because they are married.
yeah, they are married and they U-hauled it, man, like immediately. Like, can you just picture it, if you will, that Regency era of lesbians don't exist? The lawyer says it. He's like, being gay is actually impossible. But if it were possible, it's actually not illegal. And it's like that scenario, still bitches be moving in with each other. Like, into each other's mansions. Like, blows my mind. I have a mansion over here, but how about I just move into your mansion? Because, like, what an excuse to be like, actually, I do have this, like, pretty sick house and it's way better, but we can, like, we can still, like, be together. Nope.
Yeah.
Lesbians don't want to do that. They're like,
No.
I'm surprised they don't have cats, honestly.
Let me order that U-Haul carriage. Get that going.
Right. A U-Haul carriage. It's great.
Let's talk a little bit more about Captain Sutherland. We kind of briefly touched on him. I thought he was a great villain. The actor did a great job. This is so petty, but I even thought they did a good job. Like, I specifically hated his stupid hair that they would sometimes shoot, and you could see it was like being combed from the back to the front.
Yeah.
I just thought like, oh, he's such a good villain.
Yeah, he's terrific. We don't see a lot of him in season 1. And she goes to visit them, of course, and she stays with them for a while. I mean, we do see a decent amount because then she wants to, they want her to marry, was it a cousin or friend?
Yeah, it was Captain Sutherland's cousin or something.
Yeah. So we see a little bit. And then the second season, it's just like balls to the wall. Captain Sutherland is a giant POS. Like, everything is against him.
I have a question, though. Captain Sutherland, no doubt, is a fortune hunter, I would think. We can agree on that. Most of the fans. Yeah. Is the reason he is such a formidable opponent to Anne because Anne, too, is a fortune hunter?
Oh.
Annelister, I mean.
Oh, yes. Let's crack that open. I never know. It's kind of like when you're watching two people fight and you don't know who to root for because you think that they both are terrible. I don't think Annelister's terrible, but yeah, in the diary, well, like Anne Walker even says it. She's like, I don't know if I'll have any money left. Like, she's pretty much moving in and being like, yes, okay, great. Well, I'm going to borrow like thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds from you. It'll get it back, maybe. Like, how awful.
They're both after Anne Walker's money.
Yeah. So that is kind of messed up, except Annelister is being upfront about it and giving Anne Walker
and she's her spouse
about it. Yeah. So she's like, hey, can I have money? Annelister isn't saying, you should give me your money because this is the best thing to do and your mental health. No, Annelister is like, hey, we're good, right? Can I borrow a couple of dollars? And then I
don't even think she was always asking.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She was like, the way I interpreted the diaries, she ended up kind of acting as like a business, like, I don't know that she always told even Anne Walker. Not that I think Anne Walker knew about it. But yeah. But obviously you root against Captain Sutherland because he's terrible.
Yeah, obviously this is the problem. And there's another show that I was just talking to Jen about. It's the show Hannibal. I don't even know where it's playing now.
Oh, that's a great show.
Oh, so great. But that's an example of a show where you root for the bad guy.
So true. Totally true.
So
That's
is that
not
what
Captain Sutherland.
No, that's annelister.
Oh, you're saying that's what annelister is Hannibal.
I don't mean piece for piece, but like, yeah, like she's not the best person. I mean, she's kind of rude. She's really snobby. She like I could give her just as many good points
Both
as bad
elitists.
points. Yeah, she's very elitist.
Yeah.
She's kind of hypocritical too. I mean, she is leading a life where she is having sex outside of marriage. Of course, she doesn't really have any options. I mean, if she wants to have sex, because but then she like looks at Eugenie like she's just like uh got the devil's mark on her.
Yep.
So she's kind of hypocritical.
Huge
She's
hypocrite.
very snotty. She's got very like the Marianne thing. She was like, if you marry that guy, I will not talk to you again. And she's surprised when Marianne was like, actually, he dumped me because he thought that it would be embarrassing to be related to you. So I'm going to move out and distance myself from you. And Marianne and Anne's like, oh, why am I weirdly surprised?
Let's talk about Gemma Whalen, like playing Marianne here.
Another Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Callback.
Oh my God. Gemma Whalen in Game of Thrones, like she only has like what feels like 4 scenes because it's way too few, but oh my God, I love her in Game of Thrones. So hot.
I know.
That scene in the bar, I mean, oh, so hot.
Oh, I know. Yeah, she's terrific. And then I saw her in this and I'm like, is that she?
Completely different.
Yeah.
Matronly. They tried to make her look as ugly as possible almost.
Didn't work for me.
You still feeling Marianne? You're like, I'm all okay.
Yeah, because I see that Game of Thrones character and I'm gonna be an idiot and not remember the name, but
you're like, I'm just gonna take Marianne and make her put on a Game of Thrones outfit. We'll be good.
Yep. Way better. I'm Googling it now.
Yeah. You just want to look at Gemma Whalen as
Yara Greyjoy. That's right. Yara Greyjoy.
Yes, Greyjoy. I think poor Marianne, her season-long arc is kind of sad. She's fighting for herself she wants to be able to marry. She wants some agency. At the beginning of the season, they show some cute moments between the two of them, particularly when Anne is checking on her cough. She's like playing the doctor. I don't know if you remember that.
You do. The blackberry
I thought that was
syrup.
Yes, a cute little scene. By the end, Marianne's like, I'm out. I can't stand living here. I'm taking Dad.
To me, that was a surprise. I thought that was really all of a sudden, especially the dad, because the dad, like, I thought that was kind of chill. Like Aunt Anne and the dad are like,
no, Aunt Anne's chill. The dad is curmudgeon.
The dad with his gig though, like going out and buying a gig and then breaking his butt bone over it.
Oh my God. Isn't he like every old man who shouldn't be driving and then drives crazy?
Yes. I love that they added that because I'm like, it's so relatable.
Relatable.
The Marianne, again, if they were like, maybe it was mid-season, they were like, yo, this is it. So wrap it up. Then they were like, oh crap, we were gonna have several seasons of Marianne just kind of waning in their relationship. Nope, we've got to cut it down now. So that's the only way I can see that it makes sense. But yeah, there was those sweet moments in the beginning with Marianne and annelister, and then it's all of a sudden she's like, I'm out. Like, I don't know.
You think they had stuff planned for her? I think the show is so obsessed with being accurate to the diaries, except for in various, like the Eugenie and the Thomas stuff. But I think they're so tied to these real life people that they were like, I don't think they had anything planned for Marianne. And this is kind of what happens in the diaries. It like fades in the background. It's like, oh yeah, she never got married.
That would actually make me feel a lot better rather than just cutting potential stories short. So I'd prefer to think, and again, I haven't finished reading the diaries yet. So, yeah, that would be better.
I feel like it keeps the show from feeling as satisfying that we don't get something wrapped up with Marianne.
Yeah. Well, how many, like, there's other story, and I can't think of any right now, of course. But there's other stories, of course, that they put to film that they make up resolutions and stories to make us happy, and it's like they didn't do it this time, and now we're like, aw,
it's crazy because we keep saying like, oh, they could have done this, they could have done that. I still think this is a great season of television, but I do find myself fishing for. I wonder if HBO was looking at a graph and it was just left to right, just a solid diagonal line, viewership
Yeah,
wise. I
maybe.
am curious.
Yeah, I would be very curious, and maybe they'll will like come out with something. But that's how I felt when they killed Firefly, the show Firefly.
Hmm.
That's also how I felt because I'm like, why did you do that? This is a solid
Was
show, and we
that
all needed it.
who was that? Who
The
did Firefly?
Joss Whedon.
But what network
Um,
was that?
oh,
Was that like NBC or something? Like a main Fox, maybe?
I
Hmm.
can't
Okay, now I'm gonna Google it. I have to Google it.
remember. Um, Firefly was on Fox. Yeah, you're right. It was
Yeah, it was
2002, and
Fox.
it had one
Yeah.
season.
Because I didn't watch that show, but I know what you're talking about. Like I see it
I have
all the
to watch
time
it.
online referred to the bad like the mistake of canceling Firefly.
Yeah, well, they made a movie. It's called Serenity. They also made a role-playing game. They have books, they have
Wow.
graphic novels, they have things that people still go to Comic-Con dressed as Firefly characters. It's a 2002 TV show for crying out loud,
Wow.
20
That's
years
kind of
ago.
crazy.
So, I don't know if there's always a good reason. I think sometimes things just get canceled, and I
Yeah.
think it could be just there's a bigger thing. Like at the store, something gets taken off the shelf because something newer and bigger gets in. So I think
Yeah.
I don't know what that is
That's
yet though.
true. Where would you how do you feel about the finale? I feel like it was an okay finale. What were your thoughts on like the finale as a whole, the last episode?
So I walked into the finale knowing that it was going to get canceled. So right away, it wasn't like how I felt with Firefly again. I didn't realize
Hmm.
Firefly was going to not continue. So I was like, what's going to happen next? So I was kind of like looking for ways that they were tying loose ends together. I noticed the Thomas Sowden plotline didn't go anywhere, the Eugenie plotline. So I was noticing those things. But I was relieved that it was tied together so nicely. All
Hmm.
the things, even if it wasn't
So do you think it
exactly
was a good
accurate.
finale?
I thought so. I thought
Huh.
so. I thought it was a really good finale. I thought the Captain Sutherland, oh my God, like, and then he like Anne Walker goes in to say goodbye to him, and he's like, "Goodbye, my dear," and she's like, "No, bye,"
Get out
and
of here.
yeah, I was like, no, and I felt kind of bad for him, and I hate that I felt bad for him because he's
Wow.
such a piece of garbage. But he was like, "My dear," and he was like so sweet for a moment. Um,
I don't think that was genuine. He's just
that's how
lost.
that's how good of a manipulative character he is because
He's
he
able
was
to manipulate you.
manipulating me, and I'm just at home. But yeah, what about you?
Uh, I thought it could have been better.
What would you
But
have
I
done?
think it was terrible. But I think I wanted more things wrapped up if knowing that that's the final episode of the season. So
What else other than the two plot lines that I mentioned did you want wrapped up? I'm curious.
I didn't have really any specific plot line. I honestly am not even thinking of like, accordingly or anything. I think I was thinking wrap up as far as satisfaction. I don't know that I felt like the way you feel after a really great meal. Like I don't know
Mm,
that I felt that way after the finale, and so I have a critical eye. I think I'm being super critical. I think this is a high quality show, so every episode is good, but I thought it was lacking, and that's why
sure.
because I think some of the choices they made. You mentioned to me on text that you had some thoughts on a possible prequel. I
Oh,
think that would be awesome.
yeah, because so now again, for the people listening, if you do want to check it out, it's on Kindle or Amazon. You can get the Diaries of Anne Lister. There's two parts. So there's one book that goes over when she first, like it's from the kind of Mariana years. You could
Hmm.
look at it that way. So Mariana, Tib, all that stuff. And
Yeah,
then the second book is kind of the stuff the Gentleman Jack is
Paris.
made up of. Yeah.
Oh no,
So
actually, the two Whitbread books are Paris, Annelister in Paris, and then the Mariana Years. And then the Whitbread book is or those are the two Whitbread books, yeah.
okay.
And then somebody else wrote Fortune, famous Fortune.
And that's what the Gentleman Jack is.
Yeah.
Okay. So never mind then. But anyway, so the first one though is juicy. So it's got Mariana, it's got this. And again, I would actually even go even earlier than that to when she met that girl when she was in primary school. And that's when
I
she
know,
developed
right?
the code. So
Eliza
there's,
Rain.
yes, Eliza Rain. And they did mention her in season 2, which was kind of
Mm-hmm.
weird. Eliza Rain, which that was kind of messed up. And Lister was like, oh yeah, she is crazy. So, in whatever. But that would be very good fodder for a prequel. But even if
Mm-hmm.
they just started with the Mariana relationship leading into the honeymoon with Charles Lawton.
Yeah.
Make Charles Lawton sexier though, please, because I let's make the
But he
honeymoon a little bit
wasn't.
more
He was.
bearable.
I think he was probably a troll in real life.
Yeah, I don't know. Make him at least
Uh,
like a Kevin Spacey troll or something. Or can we even talk about Kevin
Ew.
Spacey anymore? I don't know.
Ew.
I
I
don't
don't
think we're
think that he
supposed
gets
to.
work anymore.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think we're
We
supposed to
canceled
bring
him.
him up.
Yeah. um. Yeah. Somebody mentioned possibly. I think somebody wrote this on a comment. On my YouTube channel that Saran Jones being the like diary narrator for, and then if they want to hire a younger actor to play Annelister, that would be a good combo.
Ooh, who would you pick as the younger actor?
Ooh, put me on the spot. Oh man, it's got to be somebody. It's going to be hard to fill Saran Jones's shoes. That's the
Is it
tough thing. I think I'm thinking that I'm like coming up blank. I'm not good. I don't know as many British actors and as I should. I honestly can't think of anybody who I don't know anybody who's British, and I don't want some American trying to do the British accent.
No, it should be, oh, you don't want
So,
Renee Zellweger being the young, gentleman Jack?
Renee Zellweger's got to be like 67 now. Like, isn't she old as hell?
She's at retirement age, yeah,
Okay,
she's
I'm
getting
just
those
gonna look up. Um,
British are you just looking up British
and I also
actresses?
okay. I am going
Okay,
to see.
Helen
I have
Mirren.
no idea who. Yes, Helen Mirren's going to play a young Ann Lister, a young 21-year-old Ann Lister. Listen, I'm just going to throw these out here as a guess.
Okay.
Jessica Clark. Nope. I just am looking at a list of British lesbian actors.
Oh, let me see here.
Rona Cameron. This
Oh,
is probably not
Jessica
even accurate.
Clark.
Billy Love. Is Jessica Clark good looking?
Jessica Clark is lovely. Those cheekbones, man.
I think we
Not
have
a
our new young Ann Lister for
but
the
I'm
prequel.
seeing stuff about a husband though. So
Yeah. Also,
wait,
who knows if the Jessica Clark you're looking at? I have a feeling Jessica Clark might be a widely used name.
I'm getting
Yeah.
that because
So
I'm seeing a lot of different results.
we're gonna have to leave it up to the people who do the prequel to cast this. You and I are not good at casting Ann Lister.
No, we are not. Turns out we lost that job. That's a shame.
My first thought
Saoirse
was
Ronan
K
being
Stew, and then I was like, she's too old now, anyways.
well, a lot of all the British actresses that I'm looking up are like in their 50s. So that's
Yeah.
a shame.
I can't believe you didn't say Kate Winslet.
I would have, but she can't play a young.
Yeah, but you did say
No,
Helen Mirren. So.
I did. That was a joke. That was a joke.
Oh,
That was a definite joke. And God bless
damn
Helen
it!
Mirren because
I was
that's
hoping that
canon.
was serious.
No. Yeah, no, I'm completely blanking on British actors right now, but I think probably should be somebody new that we don't know about. I think
Yeah, probably.
but I would definitely see it. That's a great comment from whoever was watching that. I think that would be a great version.
I thought that was great too. Ida, anything else from season 2 you think we need to cover?
No, that's it. We covered Captain Sutherland, the big moment where it was all building up to he was doing this Karen thing where he was like, so the women in Edinburgh? Yeah. So, you know what they were doing? That's what Ann Lister was doing. And he gets so many
right.
like he gets so many so when he says it to Mr. Gray, and I'm gonna play act it for you really quick. So he goes, the women in Edinburgh, you know what they were doing? That's what she was doing. And he goes like this. And he goes, yeah, so that trial was actually about the people accusing them. And the two women sued her and they won. So don't do that. And you're an idiot. And he was like, oh. And I was like, I would take this in place of a Xanax. I would watch that scene in place of actual medication to bring my spirits up, because that is how much that scene boosted my dopamine.
It is a great scene.
It was so great. I was
So
so pissed at him the whole episode. I was like, because he would talk to Anne Walker and she was like, but, well, no. Like the whole time. And then finally
somebody stuck up for her.
So that's it. But
maybe that's the satisfaction I should have been appreciating, is that scene.
The bully gets told off. That was what I was looking for. But yes, they could have done a lot better. Were they crunched for time? Who knows? But I would look forward to anything else about the storyline, but also more and more shows and movies where lesbian couples actually end up together and relatively happy in some sort of domestic situation where one doesn't die or they don't decide not to be together because they'd rather be straight or something. Like, I'm sick of all that.
A woman.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I cannot second that enough. I could not have said it better. I hope too that we get more materials from this, and if not, more lesbian couples that end up happy. So
please.
Couldn't have said it better. I think that's a great way to end the podcast. Ida, I want to thank you so much for coming onto the show. Longest podcast to date for LesCast.
Oops. Sorry.
And one of our best. No, not oops. Awesome. Sauce for Gentleman Jack fans like me who can just for hours talk about Gentleman Jack. Thank you so much for coming on to LesCast. Listeners, make sure you check out Ida on My Rabbit is a Dog. That's her Instagram at. I will have that in the description, and we will be back with new content coming soon. So make sure you are subscribed wherever you listen to podcasts.